Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to create what's called an assembly drawing. This is where we bring all of our individual part files together. So if we come up here and we simply pull down to assembly, I already have mine open. Once we have our assembly open, what we need to do is I already have all my individual parts drawn up here. What I need to do is I need to go through and place those individual pieces. What I generally like to do is my first piece, have it be your core piece that all the other ones fit around. So in my particular design, my blue block is kind of my core design piece. So I like to bring that one in first and get it set. Over here in my modeling window, what I want to see is I want to see a little bit of a thumbtack on there. And what that means is the part's grounded, so I can't move it anywhere in space. And when I lock the other parts to this one, they will become fully constrained in space as well. After we get that first one set, we can come in and we can highlight all the other pieces that we need. We can click open. You'll see they're all there. Just click once. We only want one copy of each. And then we can go through and assemble these. So when we go through, we're going to assemble these using constraints because you can see they're all free-flowing. So if I go to my constraint window, the main ones we're going to pretty much be using is what's called mate and flush. So if you see in the picture, you see those edges kind of tied together, that's flush. So if I wanted this surface to be flush with that surface, that's what I would use. Mate connects the two ends together, so kind of like the picture. Whatever surfaces I click on, so here I want this surface to go through and touch this surface, it's going to go ahead and place those on top of each other. Now, in any three-dimensional object, there are 6 degrees of freedom. So what that means is we have each one of our planes, so we have movement in the XY direction, back and forth, up and down along those planes, and then we have rotation around our X, Y, and Z axis. So if there's 6 degrees of freedom, in order to fully constrain it using the mate constraint, what I need to do is I need to put in a minimum of 3 constraints. So here you can kind of see I've applied those 2. Sometimes if you're not sure which constraints are left, move it back and forth. That'll give you an idea of where things are at. So then I can come in here, I'm going to say we'll make this edge flush to this surface. And it will apply that. Then I can go through and I can add my other ones. So maybe I want this part to be flush to that part. Now, one of the things that can sometimes be deceiving is it doesn't even look like those are flushed that way. But if I look here, you can see it actually is flush. It's just not up against that. So it's just line those surfaces up. So I can go in and use any of my other constraints to line these up. So if I apply my mate constraint there, and then if I wanted to, I can come down here and do a flush constraint. Now if you do a constraint that conflicts with your other constraints, the program's going to tell you, and it's going to basically say I can't do that. Now if we screwed up on one and we want to get rid of one, if I go over here to my modeling toolbar, underneath my blue block, you can see I have all these flush and mate constraints. So if I want to know what they attach to, if I go over each one, it will highlight the surfaces that I flushed or mated. So it makes it easy to go back and change some of those if I want. So with this one, I'm going to do another flush constraint here. I'm going to do a mate constraint here. And the way I can go about testing some of these is I can go through and see, can I actually grab any of these? Can I get them to move if I clicked on them? And if you can't see how it goes together just by clicking the surfaces like I've done, I'll go back. So this one I knew this surface had to hit over here. So I can click it and it'll rotate. If it's hard for you to see, we have a free rotate tool up here. So if I click the part, I can kind of get a rough idea of how the part's going to look. And then that gives me kind of a general sense of it. And then I can come in and use my other constraints to lock it in. And sometimes that's a lot easier for students to utilize. So there I have my cube fully constrained. Notice if I pull at any of these, nothing pops out. And that's how we do our puzzle cube assembly.